Monitoring historical security configuration, changes of EC2 instances, using AWS Config. This podcast is brought to you by Business Compass LLC. We are an Amazon Web Services advanced consulting partner. We build and migrate workloads to Amazon Cloud. Our website is businesscompassllc.com. Our phone number is 973-638-2228. Our email address is contact@businesscompassllc.us. Ensuring the security of your EC2 instances is crucial for maintaining the integrity and availability of your applications on AWS. One of the most effective ways to track and manage security configurations is by leveraging AWS Config. This powerful service provides detailed insights into the configuration history of your AWS resources. In this podcast, we'll explore how to use AWS Config to monitor historical security configuration changes of EC2 instances, ensuring your cloud infrastructure remains secure and compliant. What is AWS Config? AWS Config is a service that enables you to assess, audit, and evaluate the configurations of your AWS resources. It continuously monitors and records your AWS resource configurations and allows you to automate the evaluation of recorded configurations against desired configurations. With AWS Config, you can track configuration changes and compliance over time, making it easier to maintain security and governance in your AWS environment. Benefits of monitoring security configuration changes. Improve security posture. By continuously monitoring security configurations, you can quickly identify and remediate vulnerabilities. Compliance assurance. AWS Config helps ensure that your resources comply with internal policies and external regulations. Change management. Track who made changes, what changes were made, and when they were made, aiding in accountability and forensic analysis. Automating remediation. Integrate with AWS Config rules and AWS Lambda to automatically correct non-compliant configurations. Setting up AWS Config for EC2 instances. Step 1. Enable AWS Config. Sign in to the AWS Management Console. Navigate to AWS Config. Click on Get Started if AWS Config has not already been enabled. Select the resources to record. Choose EC2 instances along with any other resources you wish to monitor. Set up an S3 bucket. This is where AWS Config will store configuration snapshots and history. Create an IAM role. Ensure AWS Config has the necessary permissions to read resource configurations. Step 2. Create AWS Config rules. AWS Config rules are predefined, customizable rules that AWS Config uses to evaluate whether your AWS resource configurations comply with your desired settings. Navigate to the Rules section in AWS Config. Click on Add Rule. Select a rule. Choose from a list of AWS managed rules or create a custom rule using AWS Lambda. Configure the rule. Define the scope of the rule. For example, EC2 instances, specify the parameters, and set up notifications. Step 3. Review and monitor changes. Access the AWS Config dashboard. Here, you can see an overview of the compliance status of your resources. Check the Resources section. View detailed configuration history and changes for your EC2 instances. Set up alerts. Configure Amazon SNS to receive notifications about configuration changes and compliance status. Best practices for monitoring EC2 security configurations. Regularly review configurations. Periodically review the configuration history to ensure continuous compliance. Yes? Automated remediation. Integrate AWS Config with AWS Lambda to automatically fix non-compliant resources. Implement granular rules. Create specific rules that closely align with your security policies and compliance requirements. Leverage tagging. Use resource tags to categorize and monitor configurations of specific groups of instances. Conclusion. Monitoring historical security configuration changes of your EC2 instances using AWS Config is a powerful way to enhance your security posture, ensure compliance, and manage change effectively. By setting up AWS Config and creating tailored rules, you can gain deep visibility into your AWS environment and take proactive measures to maintain security and governance. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Please share this podcast, visit our website, and follow our social media links.